Can you see the PPT?
Yes, sir, definitely. It is visible.
Is it coming there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I will do, I will put it up there, right? So good morning to everyone. I will like to thank the Dr. Sharma and other organizing committee members for inviting me to deliver this talk and share my views on certain issues. Uh, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today I am going to talk. Uh, I have prepared four parts, but let me see, depending upon the time, how many of them I can cover. First, I will start with the additive manufacturing, that is the theme of your short-term course. Then modeling, experimentation, analysis, and patenting for researcher. This may look very odd, but I tell you, this is very, very important to understand the procedures for modeling, experimentation, analysis, and patenting. Now, and this course on fundamentals and applications of additive manufacturing and experimental approach, it is being organized by the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Rajki Engineering College, Mainpuri. Thank you very much. Now, organization of the talk is as follows. Essentials, Introduction, Mission 2020, Keen Observer, Additive Manufacturing Overview, Modeling, and then you will have the mathematical modeling, empirical modeling, numerical modeling, nomographic approach, experimentation, comparison, cautions, and conclusions. Let me see how much I can cover in this assigned time. Now, the motive of the talk is as follows. I, I have presumed that you have good number of MTech and PhD students and research scholars who are attending this particular short-term course, and to understand the importance of additive manufacturing in general, because this you have written there experimentation. Apart from experimentation, I am going to talk about modeling, experimentation, analysis, and patenting. Why I am doing this? Because in my opinion, your experimental work will not be highly appreciated unless you have 20 to 30% of theoretical work in your research paper or in your patenting or in your PhD MTech thesis. So the first question that arises is how you can do this experimentation, modeling, etc. Why you should do it, and when you should do it, and where to publish it. Now you know our late president, ex-president of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he started Mission 2020. And apart from Mission 2020, lately we have in our India, Make in India. Uh, this mission cannot, these two missions cannot turn out to be reality unless India achieves excellence in R&D, in manufacturing in general, and smart manufacturing in particular. Now, this is the 21st century, which is a highly competitive world, and you know, no country can be economic leader without being at forefront in R&D activities in various fields. Now, the question is, who can do it? My answer is only you as a young researcher and scientist can do it. Please note it very carefully, there is no substitute for hard work. Apart from that, who is a good scientist or researcher? Let me just now, to be a good scientist and researcher, you should be honest, sincere, hardworking, and you should have junoon, which is also called as madness, ovation, passion. towards your work. Otherwise, you cannot be a good scientist or a good researcher. A very good, very important quality for a good scientist or researcher is keen observer. I will show you some examples of how keen observer can make you a great scientist. Another point, poverty and hurdles should not stop you from going ahead. And please note it carefully, there is no substitute for hard work. Now the question is, how to be worthy for producing publishable work? Because most of you who are doing MTech or PhD, one of their objective is to publish their work in good journals. Now be keen observer, be honest and sincere to your work. Examples of some scientists I will show you in this regard. I hope all of you know Sir Isaac Newton. An apple fell on his head. I hope all of you know it. He started thinking, why did it fall on his head? Why it did not go into the sky? And you know, as a physicist, he started analyzing it. And he gave you the theory of gravity. Now, why I am telling this, see how keen observation he had. He started thinking about a very simple event which we all know, we all might have felt in our life. Other than apple, there could have been some other, fruit. Then you know our Dr. C.V. Raman, who was traveling to England by ship, and he saw the color of water of sea as bluish. He started thinking why it is black in color. Why not black? Why not red? Or some other color? And you know, he analyzed it and he proposed a theory known as Raman effect. And he was awarded Nobel Prize for the same. You know Ramanujan, who was great mathematician. He was very poor. He belonged to a very poor family. He could not even buy the books for his school. And you will be surprised to know that he did not have any degree, but he was invited by Professor Hardy of his time, who was very famous, world famous mathematician. And he used to work on number theory. And his theories proposed are still being worked upon, being analyzed upon by mathematicians. And he died at the age of 34 years only. And then another Archimedes, who was given the responsibility for finding out for a crown by his queen, his country's queen, whether it has only gold or it has a mixing up of other metals. One day he was taking bath in the tub and he started feeling light. And then he realized, oh, this is this. And he ran naked without any clothes on the street shouting, Eureka, Eureka. Why I am giving these examples? That you should have the keen observation and you should be having the junoon towards your work. And most of you, the philosophers and the scientists, they are many times called as mad, pagal. Pagal ho gaya hai. That's what they call it. So another very interesting example that you must be knowing, this is the pulley made of cast iron. And this I have taken photograph at the IIT Kanpur gate, where we earlier had the well. And this pulley was very rough, made of cast iron. But after a year, you know, you can see it has become very smooth. So my question is here, is it necessary for the tool to be harder than the workpiece? I hope all of you must have studied it in your second year or first year itself, that tool material should be harder than the workpiece material which is being cut. Now here, after seeing this, I started thinking, is the rope, because this has become smooth when residents were pulling the water with the help of the rope. Now the question is the rope harder than the cast iron? Otherwise, if it was not harder, then this principle doesn't hold good. If it was harder, then you should think it is made of fibers. How can it be harder than this? Harder than the cast iron? So question is, can a rope cut the metal? So you have to find the solution, because it has cut over here, then why and how it has cut the metal, you just think about it. I will give you just reference books over here. Some of them have the material related to the additive manufacturing, just like these books, Nano Finishing Science and Technology. And then you have the advanced machining processes, which deals with micro machining also. Micro machining is there, and then micro manufacturing. This process has the chapters related to what you have been hearing in this particular short-term course. Now, your topic is additive manufacturing, or you can call it as 3D printing, additive technologies, or layered manufacturing. All these names are quite popular for this particular process. Now, 3D printing is a future of manufacturing. 3D printing changes the calculus of manufacturing by, optimizing for batches of one. When we talk of manufacturing, we normally do not have batch of one. We have a certain minimum number of batch, whichever is the optimum or economic batch size. But in this, you are talking of the batch of one, flexibility to build a wide range of products. You can make a very wide range of products by the same machine. It can be done near to the point of consumption, because normal manufacturing products are being made somewhere and they are being used elsewhere. Just like even in one country it is being made, it is exported to another country and they are being used there. But in additive manufacturing or 3D printing, this is changing the calculus of the factory completely. It implies a serious change to supply chains and business models. Supply chain management and business models are completely changing with the inclusion of the additive manufacturing. When the volume of production is low, this technology is used to produce final components without making tools, dies, molds, patterns, etc. I don't know. Can you think of production without making a tool, without having a machine tool? Manufacturers are looking to shorten supply chains, eliminate shipping costs, and reduce lead times, because when you are making at the point of consumption, then there is nothing like a shipping cost, etc. And also the lead time is reduced substantially. These can come as benefits from additive manufacturing technologies. And I am sure, yeah, you must have heard quite a bit about the various technologies related to additive manufacturing. Now the question is, where are we leading to in additive manufacturing? Modern manufacturing could be done without a factory. Can you think of manufacturing without a factory? Could you think of manufacturing without factories, without machine tools? No machine tools are there. Without production lines, without economies of scale, without tooling, without assembly lines, and without supply chains management. So this is something very extraordinary. It forces you to think manufacturing without all these items or without all these elements. However, This is exactly what is happening as 3D printing reaches individuals, small businesses, and corporate department. This is actually really happening in the real world, in going to happen in the real world in future, very soon. Now let us see my 3D printing is the futuristic manufacturing. Now you can see here this test part represents engine component which GE General Electric hopes to make it by additive production, additive manufacturing. Because GE is making engines for the aerospace industry. This part faces performance demands, including thermal cycling and temperature, very high temperature it is subjected for. This is the first GE aviation additive parts they have made. It runs at full, if runs at full production today, would consume most of the direct metal laser sintering capacity currently available for production use in North America. I would like to tell you this statement very specifically. See, GE is spending billions and billions of dollars in developing additive manufacturing technologies. And they say that their demand, means GE demand, is so much that even if they use existing additive manufacturing facilities in USA, whole all those facilities will not be able to serve even the purpose of only one industry, that is GE. So they say there are two alternatives. There are two alternatives. Either you increase the number of the facilities available in USA, or you change the technology so that their efficiency and capabilities enhance substantially. That is why the company says one of the two alternatives will have to take place. Either number of additive machines have to increase, or you have to, machine technology will have to improve to the point that the machines coming into use are faster than the machines available today. So you can think of the kind of the money USA is spending. I will give you the other examples on additive manufacturing. Now this is the engine, 3D printed, a mini jet engine. You can see over here. Now you see it runs at 33,000 RPM, revolutions per minute. And this is prepared by the additive manufacturing technology only. So additive manufacturing grows parts directly from a CAD file. I hope you know this procedure, that you have a part having the drawing for it, CAD model, and file using layers of fine metal powder, and an electron beam or laser beam are used for melting those metal powder and depositing it layer by layer. The result is a complex The result is a complex and fully dense part without waste, manufactured in a fraction of time that it would take using other methods. So it's very efficient method without any wastage. This is very important. Without wastage, manufactured in a fraction of the time that it would take using other methods. Now, how to build customized parts quickly and flexibly? Conventional processes are often costly, time consuming, and technically highly complex. 3D printing is also used for dentistry, a flexible mode of manufacturing, produces hundreds of individual dental crowns in one batch, and offers a continuous competitive edge over other techniques which are used for in dentistry. 3D printing for orthopedics. This is another very important example. The patient's individual anatomy is the key factor. Now, please understand it very carefully because every individual has different anatomy. Doesn't matter whether it is tooth or leg or hip joint or knee joint. Now, if it doesn't work just like what you have in Bata shoes, either you take number 10 shoe or number 9 shoe or number 11 shoe. There is nothing like 9.25 shoe or 9.5 shoe. And if your implants are something like Bata shoes, then patient will have great pain for longer time. So 3D printing can help in this direction for orthopedics, dentistry, implants, etc. That they take the anatomy details of the patient, develop the drawing or CAD models, and then make it with the help of the 3D printing. So the patient's individual anatomy is the key factor. Meeting the patient's specific anatomic needs reduces hospitalization time. This is very important. Total time spent in hospital is reduced. Reduces problems normally caused by ill-fitting implant. This is what I was telling you, that if you have the implants of exactly the same anatomy as your body, then your total hospitalization time and pain, that will reduce substantially. And then it reduces healthcare cost also. Now you can see here, this is a very good example of 3D printing, application of 3D printing, full skull reconstruction via printing, by a 3D printing technology. This is the photograph I had taken quite some time back. That is in July 2015, and it is belonging to China. A 3-year-old girl in China will finally be able to lift her head from the pillow after receiving the world's first full skull reconstruction surgery via 3D printing technology. Her head was very big and she was not able to move it. They developed this with the help of the 3D printing technology and replaced her head by this 3D printed technology head. And now she is able to move her head very comfortably. So you can say here, whole brain shrinking plastic surgery was done, and it took a very long time, in surgery. So she continues to grow. The titanium implants will become surrounded by her own bone, which will lead to strengthening the top of her skull. So what I am trying to tell that it's not only engineering products, even medical science needs 3D printing very badly for various applications. Now you can see here, this is the car model prepared with the help of 3D printing. The Vienna University of Technology, they developed 3D printed race car, approximately 285 microns long. The length is 285 microns and was printed in 4 minutes. This has been prepared within 4 minutes. So you can think of the speed with which this works. It demonstrates that high speed, ultra precision 3D printing is possible. As you can see, the fine details are all are there from outside looking. Also opens the doors for innovation in the medical science, etc. Now you can see here 3D printed structures like kidney is here, and then you have the ear over here, top right, and then you have the fingers. All of them have been prepared with the help of the 3D printing. They can one day help address the organ shortage and the need to repair, if not replace, damaged body parts. So these both are very important to meet the shortage of the organs and to replace damaged body parts. Now you can see here, this is another girl having this problem in the leg, and you can see 3D printed metal lace cover on this prosthetic leg is delicate yet strong and reflects the wearer's individuality. So the exact sizes, etc., they are taken photographs and then this was prepared with the help of the 3D printing. Now you can see here the world's first 3D printed car using Stratasys printer, etc. You can see over here, this is the car which was developed, and they are trying to develop the interior of this particular car. The car is designed to be highly energy efficient for low volume production. Now you can see here again, no part, no assembly, nothing doing. This 3D printed adjustable range. It does not require any assembly. It is printed and prepared with the help of the 3D printing only. And this is the 3D printed metal gear. Now, what is this 3D printing or layered manufacturing or additive manufacturing? You can see here, this is the one layer prepared over here. Depending upon what is the CAD model, this is being done. You have the X, Y, Z motion of different parts. And this is the second stage of preparation, third stage of preparation. So layer by layer, you are depositing the material and finally you are getting the product. That's why it is known as layered manufacturing. It builds object layer by layer. Traditional manufacturing typically uses a subtractive process. We are not discussing here about the subtractive processes just like metal cutting, where you are removing the material layer by layer and giving the final shape of the product to the part. But here you are, rather than removing, you are adding the material layer by layer to get final shape and size of the product. Now, fused ion beam deposition. Now I will give you some typical, very interesting examples of the layered manufacturing, and some of them have been done at IIT Kanpur also. Just like this coil, it is 700 nanometer. Please note it carefully. It is nanometer. That means one less than 1 micrometer. Pitch 80 nanometer line, width diamond like amorphous carbon, and fabricated by the FIB, focused ion beam induced deposition at IIT Kanpur. There is a separate lab in which this was fabricated at IIT Kanpur under the leadership of Dr. Kulkarni, the late Kulkarni, Professor. Now here you can see here, this is a micro wine glass. This is the micro wine glass with 2.75 micrometer external diameter. External diameter is 2.75 micrometer and 12 micrometer height. 2.75 and 12 micrometer height. So you can see all dimensions are in micron. Please note it carefully. Focused ion beam is good for nanometric fabrication rather than micrometric fabrication too much. Very high micrometric fabrication is going to take very long time. That's why I always say it is very good for nanometric fabrication rather than micrometric fabrication. All cross sections in nanometers are given over here, and this kind of the structure has been fabricated by 3D printing or deposition, layer deposition methods. Now you can see this is the 1 micrometer, and each one has got much lesser diameter than 1 micrometer. So it is all in nanometer. And this is the angle where from it has been taken. Now micro nano finishing, I am not going to discuss this micro nano finishing because it is not your theme. But whenever you are making the parts with the help of the additive manufacturing, one of the basic problem with additive manufactured products is that their finish is very poor, extremely poor. So you will require nano finishing processes, and I will just give you 1 or 2 slides for this. Just see, this is the human body and you have so many implants, knee joints, hip joints, and other parts, and valve is there, and all kind of things. These things you can fabricate with the help of 3D printing or additive manufacturing. But after manufacturing, the surface characteristics are so poor that you will require nano finishing for all these parts before really implanting them in the human body. From that point of view, this nano finishing of human implants becomes very important. So reduced friction will definitely lead to comfort to the patient. Now, if you finish it properly, then friction is going to reduce and it will lead to the comfort to the patients, longer implant life, and it minimizes the need for next replacement. Means total time required for replacement will be enhanced. In this case, nano finishing comes to rescue. So 3D printing manufacturing can be employed for matching the parts with individual patients. I have already mentioned this. Anatomy, 3D printing manufacturing is easily acceptable for minor changes in the size and shape of a part as per patient's economy. That is what you can see here for different implants shown over here. Thank you. This completes the part one. Now I will go to the second part. Modeling, analysis, and experimentation. First, I will discuss the modeling after having some idea about the additive manufacturing. As I have mentioned earlier, that it is not only experimentation, but modeling and analysis is very important. You know, unfortunately, in India, we do not have very good research activity as long as additive manufacturing is concerned. It is not only just preparing certain model or product, rather you should develop the technology for making different complicated things faster and efficiently, as is being told by the GE and other industries. Now modeling. In my opinion, what is modeling? In my opinion, if it is a theoretical work, then its content should be around 70 to 80%. What is modeling? I will discuss after this. If it is a theoretical work, then its content should be around 70 to 80%, and the remaining 20 to 30% should be experimental work for verification of theory. And vice versa is true. That if it is a theoretical, yes, if it is a theoretical work, then it should have experimental work also. Else, you may face difficulty in publication in the journal or in acceptance of your MTech and PhD thesis. The question is, what is modeling? Representation of a natural phenomena in terms of mathematical equations, that is known as a model. And this process is known as modeling. So you have to apply this concept for the work that you may be doing on additive manufacturing. There are various types of models that people have been developing for different kind of the processes, like mathematical model, empirical model, numerical model. I am excluding the schematic pictorial models. I am not talking about the pictorial models that we develop for CAD, computer aided design and computer aided manufacturing. Now, what is mathematical modeling? During the development of a mathematical model, verbal description of a phenomena is converted in the form of an equation or set of equations. Depending upon the complications of the phenomena, you can have one equation or more than one equation for expressing that particular phenomena. Example, very simple example, speed is known as the distance traveled in 1 hour, and it can be represented as follows. distance traveled divided by time taken. So this becomes a mathematical model for speed. Now, for the development of a mathematical model of a phenomena, you should know physics, chemistry, biology, depending upon the process of that particular process. Otherwise, you cannot really do the justice with the model that you are developing. While developing a model for a phenomena, keep the following points in mind. Very important. Break the problem into small parts or more number of problems which can be easily handled. As far as possible, first attempt should be a success to develop the confidence in the researcher. This is very important. Never try to develop a model for the complicated and big problem. That big problem you break into smaller problems, many problems, and try to develop a very simple model as the first attempt for any problem, because this is very important that it should be a success, so that you develop the confidence in yourself that yes, you can develop the model. If it is a failure at the first attempt itself, then I tell you it will be very difficult for you to be a good model developing person. Same way, take a small problem as the first attempt and develop a simple model. Another very important point, make appropriate assumptions so that the problem can be easily tackled or it can be easily handled. This is another very important, because you see, any model that has been developed by big scientists or researchers, all of them have certain assumptions. What to do with these assumptions, I will tell you a little later. Once a simple model is developed successfully, then relax the assumptions to make the model more realistic or very close to the real problem. This is what I mean. You make a simple model as a first attempt, get the success, and then start relaxing the assumptions one by one. I will give you the very good example for this, so that you develop the confidence and then make that model that you are developing very close to the real life problem. We will discuss this, and take a small problem and go in depth rather than taking a big problem and shallow depth or a failure. Because if you are having a big problem, then it may result in the failure also, that you may not be able to develop a model at all. Or if you don't go into depth and you take a big problem and go shallow depth, then it may not get appreciation even by the examiners or by the publishers or editor in chief. Now just see, I have tried to explain this, that you take such a small problem and then go into the depth rather than taking such a big problem and going shallow depth. That is what I mean. Now let us understand with the help of an example about what I have said above. Example, I hope many of you may be knowing Faraday's laws of electrolysis, that gives the following model: M is equal to IET over F. This is for electrolysis. It is used for electrochemical machining as well as electroplating, where M is mass removed, I is the current flowing, E is the electrochemical equivalent of the anode, and T is the machining time, and F is Faraday's constant. Now, so many assumptions have been made while suggesting this particular equation. I will take a couple of them. In the next slide, equation assumptions. Now, let us see the next slide, then I will come back. Now, from previous equations, we can deduce the following equation for change in inter-electrode depth during ECM or electrochemical micromachining. that when you are doing the machining, electrochemical machining, then there is the gap between the anode and the cathode. And that gap is represented as Y, and T is the machining time. So dy over dt, that is the change of the interelectrode gap with time, is given by C over Y minus F. F is the feed rate, C is the constant, which is given as follows. C is equal to E into B minus delta V K over F into rho A. Delta V was not proposed by the Faraday. It was taken later on by the scientist, and this is nothing but the over potential. This is the potential being applied. This is the electrochemical equivalent. K is the electrical conductivity of the electrolyte. F is the Faraday's constant, and rho is the density of the anode. Now, please note it carefully that initial model did not have this delta V, because Faraday assumed that whatever is the voltage being applied, that is the effective voltage. Later on, scientists implemented that delta V is there, over potential is there. So effective voltage becomes V minus delta V. Now here K, that is electrolytes, electrical conductivity, was assumed as constant. We will discuss it. And E is the electrochemical equivalent, which is taken as one value. Or this can be given as E, VE, V minus delta V is written as VE, that is the effective voltage. Now, let us go back to the earlier slide, which I told you. Now, in the earlier next slide, we have seen that K is the electrolyte's conductivity, electrical conductivity of the electrolyte, taken as constant. V is taken as the effective voltage, and both assumptions are really not correct, and that is why scientists found that there was a lot of discrepancy between the theoretical results and experimental results. So they found the reasons, and they started relaxing these assumptions. The equation did not give the accurate results. Hence, researchers started finding out the reasons. They found that the effective voltage is V minus delta V, not V. They also found that electrical conductivity of the electrolyte, small k, varies due to temperature change. Whenever there is electrochemical machining or electroplating, heat is generated, because of which the temperature of the electrolyte is changing. And because of this change in temperature, electrolyte conductivity is changing. Then addition of the voids in the electrolyte. During electrochemical machining of, say, iron, and you are using the NaCl as the electrolyte, then hydrogen and oxygen gases are evolved, and these voids, they get mixed up with the electrolyte, and once voids get mixed up with the electrolyte, electrical conductivity of the electrolyte is changing. And then whatever is the reaction product, that is known as sludge, and that sludge is getting added to the electrolyte. So all these three factors are changing the electrolyte during the machining process. Now, what is mathematical modeling? We continue with this. From previous equations, we can, this we have already discussed. Now, in view of the above, researchers started relaxing the assumptions step by step as follows. Some of the researchers, they proposed that K, that is the electrolyte's electrical conductivity, is equal to K0 into 1 plus alpha delta T, where K0 is the initial or inlet conductivity of the electrolyte, alpha is the temperature coefficient, and delta T is the change in the temperature. So where A is the, okay, delta T is the temperature. Now, researchers were not satisfied with the deviation. Now, they proposed this particular equation for conductivity of the electrolyte, and they again calculated or tried to compare the theoretical and experimental results. So, researchers were not satisfied with the deviation in the experimental and theoretical results. They accounted for the white fraction that is given over here. Hydrogen and oxygen gas bubbles evolved during ECM, and they modified the equation as follows. Now here you can see it is taking care of temperature only, and here they modified this equation that K is equal to K0 1 plus alpha delta T into 1 minus alpha V raised to power n, where alpha V is the percent void fraction and n is the exponent, which you can find out with the help of the experiments. So this equation was also not giving satisfactory results. Hence, IIT Kanpur student Mr. Chokse modified it to give still better results by accounting for sludge contamination of electrolyte. As I told you earlier, that reactions are taking place, chemical reactions are taking place, and sludge is being formed or reaction products are formed, and they get mixed up with the electrolyte, and they change the electrolyte's electrical conductivity. So Mr. Chokse modified this equation like this: K is equal to K0 1 plus alpha delta T into 1 minus alpha B raised to power n. That is this equation. And then he added the term 1 plus alpha S raised to power m. This plus can be minus also, plus also, depending upon whether the sludge is electrically conducting or electrically non-conducting. Alpha S is the sludge fraction. So it depends upon that, and m is the exponent, which you have to find out with the help of the experimental result. So what I have tried to show you here is that this is the equation which is giving much better results. We have checked it. So what I am trying to tell that first attempt should be very simple, and then you start relaxing the assumption that you have made, and one by one you will find that your model becomes very close to real life phenomena. What does it indicate? Relax the assumptions one by one after making the first simple model, just like what Faraday had proposed for electroplating and electrochemical machinery. Now, it's not possible every time to represent mathematically the phenomena, because they become very complicated and becomes difficult. So people or scientists use what is known as empirical modeling. Many times a system is highly complex and it cannot be easily expressed in mathematical form or mathematical model. Sometimes the researchers have no scientific basis to represent the system's behavior mathematically, because once you do not know how it can be represented mathematically. So what you can do is you can go for what is known as empirical modeling. I will tell you. Then the question is how to solve the problem. Then for that purpose, you can conduct the experiments, carefully select the parameters, which is very important, and number of parameters that you are selecting or input parameter that you are selecting should be minimum possible. Select only the measurable or quantifiable parameters, not qualitative parameters. This is very important to take care of. Vary each parameter within the range easily attainable and commonly used. For each experiment, measure the response and repeat each experiment minimum 2 to 3 times. Else your results may not be reliable. Now this is again very important when you are conducting the experiment. Doesn't matter whether metal cutting or additive manufacturing or anything. You should repeat the experiment at least 2 to 3 times. Otherwise your results are not going to be reliable, and I tell you many times your research papers will get rejected because you have not repeated your results and you are not sure whether when you repeat it second time or third time you are going to get the same results or not. I will show you the example also. Develop a mathematical relationship using statistical techniques. Nowadays, life has become very easy because softwares are available. If you know the response and if you know the values of the parameters, variable parameters or input parameters, then you feed them to feed to the software, and the software will give you this kind of the empirical model. So life has become very easy, but if you go back 30 years, 40 years back, that time researchers have to develop this model themselves, and it used to take a lot of time to develop such kind of the models, empirical models. Develop different models, equations for different responses. Now you may have multiple responses, just like material removal rate, surface finish, or material deposition rate, surface finish, strength of the additive manufactured component, and so on. So these becomes by one, by two, by three, etc. You have to develop one model for each response. One model for, if there are three responses, then you will have three empirical models developed for that problem. And that is known as multi-response problem. So you can use various softwares are available, you can use them, but use them carefully. Some real life research topics for further research, like, if you want to electric discharge micro machining models are there. In case of additive manufacturing, I can tell, although it is about micro machining, but for additive manufacturing, EDM process has been used, electrochemical spark machining process has been used for additive manufacturing very efficiently. And we have done some work at IIT Kanpur also. Now, tool design for electric discharge micro machining for the specified workpiece shape. Anyway, you are not dealing with this, so I will not go into this. Now, what is empirical modeling? I will continue with this. You have to observe certain cautions. These models are valid within the huge range of the process variables only. Very important. Example, supply voltage range was 20 to 30 voltage. Suppose you are conducting the electrochemical machining experiments. Then you are varying your input parameters as 20 volt to 30 volts. And in that particular case, if you use it to predict the response, because whatever numerical model or empirical model you have developed over here, that model you may use it for predicting the responses. Now, if you are using this model for predicting it for 10 volt or 40 volt, because you use the range 20 to 30 volt, if you are going beyond on either side beyond this range, you cannot use this particular model, because these models are good for interpolation. Same is true for additive manufacturing. If you are developing a surface finish model for additive manufactured product and you have used a certain voltage range, if you are trying to predict the results beyond that range, either side less or more than that range, then it will not work, because it is useful only for interpolation, not for extrapolation. This is a common mistake or misinterpretation made by the new users, researchers. Then they claim that the proposed model is wrong, because you have developed this model for 20 volt to 30 volt. And if you are using it for 40 volt or 10 volt, then you will not get the right results. And you will start saying the model is wrong, which is wrong. This is not, this claim is not correct that model is wrong, because you have tried to use it for extrapolation, while this model is valid for interpolation only. So same is true for workpiece. If you are using it for cast iron, you cannot use it for copper or mild steel. Same is true for tool material. If you are using tool material as copper, then you cannot use it for brass tool material, and so on. Important, which empirical model to select. This is very important. It does not matter whether you are using it for additive manufacturing or micro machining or machining. This is very important. In the software, you have to specify which model should be fitted, whether it should be a linear model or it should be a non-linear model, cubic or so on. This is the linear model. Y is equal to a plus bx. Y is the response, a is the constant, b is the constant, and x is the variable. It can be y is equal to a plus bx plus cx square, or y is equal to a plus bx cx square dx cube, and so on. So these becomes the non-linear models, and this becomes the linear model. So you have to clearly specify which model you want to fit before really getting the empirical model from your software. So now the question is how to decide whether it is a linear model or it is a non-linear model. This is very typical but very important question. How to decide it? Now let us see the next slide which will answer this particular question. Now here is a relationship between experimental results, and here you can see percent subsurface defects, and this is the polishing time. You are polishing, there is certain subsurface defect. Now you can see here 0 to certain point. Here there is no effect of polishing time. Here it is varying like this, and here in this range it is varying. So you can clearly see there is, from this to this range there is no effect of the polishing time. But from here to here, this is linearly varying, and from here to here it is non-linearly varying. So for representing this phenomena by empirical models, you will have to have three models, one from this to this range, another from this to this range, and third from this to this range. So it carries three ranges of variation: no effect, linear, and non-linear. That is very clear. So this is very good example for representation, how to select. Now after selecting this, you can develop three different kind of the models to represent whole of this phenomena. Now, nowadays this is very commonly used numerical modeling, because many times the variations are such that the problems are so complicated that you cannot easily develop mathematical models. And it is also not possible to develop many times empirical models. In those cases, what people are doing, they are going for numerical modeling. You know already that it can be a finite element method, as you can see here, finite difference method, finite element analysis, boundary element method, or finite volume method, or fuzzy analysis, and so on. So there are different kind of the modeling available, that comes under the category of numerical modeling, and fortunately softwares are available for that particular purpose. In these methods, again you break the problem into very small elements and nodes, and vary the variables in these elements, and then calculate the responses on each node. I am not going to detail anything related to finite difference, finite element method. That is a separate subject. But I am just giving you the idea how does it work. Now responses are calculated on each node, and then node by node whole domain, whole problem is solved, and it is highly time consuming, that you have to keep in mind. But you solve the problems which cannot be solved otherwise. Cautions that you have to take are as follows. It should not turn out to be garbage in and garbage out. This is very important point. You all of you should know as a teacher or as a researcher. Because I find many PhD and MTech people have said finite element analysis of ECM process, and they do not know anything about finite element method. They just put in certain data into the ANSYS or other software, and they got certain output. Since they did not have much idea about finite element method, they could not formulate the problem properly. And whatever is they have inputted and whatever they have got, it may be completely different from the theoretical or experimental results. That's why I have written here garbage in, garbage out. So to avoid such kind of situation in academics, in research houses, R&D houses, the person who is using these softwares or these numerical modeling should thoroughly study in the classroom, credit the courses. Just like if you are doing your PhD or MTech on finite element method, you should definitely credit the course on finite element method before really using it for your problem. That's what I mean. So whatever technique you are using, finite element, finite difference, genetic algorithm, etc., you should credit the related courses in the classroom. Crediting classroom is very important. Use the accurate mathematical or empirical models, and because here when we are saying the responses on the nodes, etc., then you have to use certain mathematical model or empirical model. So you have to use the accurate mathematical model or empirical model for the response calculation. Otherwise, if your models are not correct, if they are not accurate, then whatever numerical modeling you are using, it will not give the correct results. Understand the problem formulation properly. This you can do only when you have credited the courses. I am not talking about auditing the courses. Many IITs allow the students to audit the courses and comfortably students audit the courses. No, I am sorry to say you will not learn what you can learn by crediting that particular course. That's why I have written here, understand the problem formulation properly, and that is possible when you are crediting that particular course. Compare your results with others model. When you have got the finite element or finite difference model results, you compare your results with the theoretical models, empirical models, or others numerical models or experimental results. Once that deviation is within a certain range, only then you can say that your modeling is correct. If the deviation is say more than 10% or so, even 10% is quite high, but if it is more than 10% or so, doesn't matter whether it is a mathematical model or numerical model or empirical model. Your model is not correct in my opinion. You have to further relax the assumptions. Modify the model. If the deviation is more than 10% or so, relax the assumptions in the model that you have made during modeling. Results for comparison of theory with experiments. I will show you one example. You can see here. See, IIT Kanpur patented first time in the world the turbulated holes, micro holes drilling in the superalloy or any material for that matter. And you can see here these are the experimental results. And you know the largest size of the diameter is 1 millimeter, and all others are less than 1 meter. That is, it comes under the category of micro deep holes. And you can change the shape of this, whatever is this has been patented, and all the things are available there in the theory and the paper. I am not going into detail, but what I am telling, comparison with the theoretical profile. Then we developed a model also, and you can see here a comparison between the theoretical and experimental result, and this deviation is less than 10%. And based on this only, we could say that our model is giving accurate results. Otherwise, we have to modify it by relaxing the further relaxing the assumptions. Now this is the photographic view of the turbulated hole drilled in the superalloy, and you can see the, and this is very important for turbine blades for cooling. This is the cooling holes drilled. Hundreds of such holes have to be drilled in the turbine blades for effective cooling, and you can change the shape of this drilled hole depending upon the designer's requirement, turbine blade cooling holes designer's requirement. So this way you should verify your results, then only you should go further. Now you can see another example of comparison. Again, it is from IIT Kanpur. Theoretical design tool is this, and this is the experimental tool used, and we are getting the same profile of the NIT by design tool as well as theoretical profile as well as experimental profile that is given over here. So you can see clearly that this deviation is very small and you can accept it. But in some cases, this deviation increased like this. So we have to look into it. We looked into it and we try to find out what is the reason that in this particular case, this is giving larger deviation, here it is quite small. So the theoretical and experimental results seem to be in the acceptable range based on these results. Then there is another, approach as long as modeling is concerned, that is known as nomographic approach. Because on the shop floor, if you go and see that technicians are there, they need to, design the tool, they need to find out the input variables, values, and so on. So what nomographic approach has been used for that particular purpose, I will not go into detail, but these are very good for shop floor technicians. Now, experimental work, because your additive manufacturing is basically, this theme of this is experimental work on additive manufacturing. So it is equally important in the development of theoretical work as long as experimental work is concerned. It is used to develop empirical models, as I have mentioned to you while discussing the empirical models, because it doesn't matter whether it is additive manufacturing or micro machining or machining, you have to develop the empirical model or theoretical model based on the experimental results. It is used to find out effective variables for the development of a model, because in many cases, say take the case of chemical engineering, you may have 20 variables, but you cannot develop a model with 20 input variables. So you have to reduce the number of the variables. Same is true for additive manufacturing. So to reduce the number of variables, you have to conduct the experiment and check that which variables are significant and which are insignificant. In, in general, you should not have more than 4 or 5 variables. Select the most effective maximum 4 or 5 variables from the experimental result that you have conducted, and carefully select the range of the variables. This is very important. That range of the variables also should be selected very carefully. As I gave you the example of electrochemical machining, we selected, say, range from 20 to 30 volts. Then you cannot extrapolate the results below 20 volts and above 30 volts. So this range selected for experimental work should be done very carefully. I have already told you, be honest and have the patience to find real cause of the experimental or theoretical observation. Whatever you are observing theoretically or experimentally, you should try to find out the real cause of it. Now see very carefully, this is real life problem I am telling to you. This happened with one of my PhD students. There was a relationship between y is the response, x is the variable. And he was trying to find out the relationship between y and x, and he found this full line of, he obtained this as like this. But in general, each expert in this area was expecting relationship like this, straight line of like this, continuous line, but he was getting this. I also got confused, and I asked him again, why don't you repeat this experiment and try to find out how this is varying? He repeated this experiments, and all the 3 times he got this relationship. And then I asked him to find out what is the real cause of this. And he will not believe, in finding out the cause of this, he took 2 to 3 months. And this was the best work that he had done for his PhD thesis. So what I am trying to tell, that be honest and have the patience to find real cause of the experimental or theoretical observation. Just don't take it, why, forget about this, why to go like this. Let us plot it like this, and we will say this was something wrong with this. No, then you are wrong. You are really not a good scientist, or you are really not a good researcher. So this is what I will like to say. So the expected is the general trend that I have shown here. But after repeating it 3 times, always it was giving the obtained one, this kind of relationship. Then what to do now as a PhD scholar and as a guide of the PhD scholar? So it took about 3 months to find out why it is coming so. And it was possible because he had the patience for doing so. So suppose you are doing your MTech and so on, and this I have just tried to give another example that you may be doing your MTech thesis, and you are at the verge of submission of your MTech thesis, but you come one day to know while you are, suppose you are doing it on electrochemical face facing operation in turning, and you come to know that, oh, there was something wrong in connection, and then all your results become wrong. So my question is, your scholarship is going to stop and you are going to get married. What will you do as a student? So think about it as a student. What do you do and what you should do? Because if you take this, then you are doing injustice with your research activity. If you are doing this, then you have to repeat all experiment that you have done, and your scholarship is going to stop. I don't know what you will do. Thank you very much for the second part. Now I can just introduce the third part. Yes, please let me know. Should I go for third part or not? Dr. Sharma,
Sir,
should I go for third part or stop here?
actually we have time limitation. Sir,
So 10 minutes are there. If you want, you can have the question answer.
yeah. Now,
Thank you very much. Please let me have the questions if you have any questions.
Participant, you can ask your queries.
No question?
Uh, yes, sir. I think there is no question, and sir, it is very beneficial session. So I think we can
Stop
also cover
here?
part. We can also cover part 3,
Okay.
sir, if you have time.
No, I have no problem. Okay, I will go to part 3. Quickly, now I will just, rather than going into the thing, importance of publications. The question that arises in my mind before publishing any work are following. How to be worthy for publishing? What to publish? Why to publish? How to get publishable work done? How to decide where to publish? What precautions to observe before submitting a manuscript for publication, and what precautions to observe while revising a paper. So these are the some of the very important questions related to publishing your research activity. Importance of patents. Some questions that arise in my mind on this topic are as follows. What to patent? How to decide a patentable material or research? Who will patent? Why to patent? And which type to patent? Whether it should be a national patent or it should be an international patent. How to be worthy of working for work worth publishing. This is very important because, as I have mentioned earlier, that you can do anything, but it is not guarantee that it will get published. You may get the degree, but for getting it published in the international journal, is a not that easy task. For that, I have already told you, be honest and have the patience to find the real cause of the problem. I have already explained this to you, so I am not repeating it. Now, be keen observer, observation of events in the household. You can see, I will give you the example. How, if you are keen observer, how you can do a great job. See, I think all of you know these are the connection, electrical connection switches, male and female parts. And if you, nowadays you have different kinds, but in the olden time, you had these kind of the fuses. And if you see them, after some time, you will find that black powder is deposited here and they all are blackish in color. And all this happens due to the sparking. And that is the burnout marks over here. So there were Lazarenko brothers who found that female and male parts of an electric switch have created have craters formed on it. They have formed the craters also over here. Now they started thinking why it is so. Can we make constructive use of the destructive activity? This is a destructive activity. They are damaging these switches or fuses. So both brothers studied the phenomena in detail. They attempted to develop EDM machine for more than 40 times, but failed. Finally patented a machine named as electro spark machining machine. Now my question to all of you is, do you have that kind of patience that you attempt to develop a machine 40 times and you fail and still you continue to attempt to develop it? After, I am sure, after 2-3 times you will give up. So that is not the kind of the patience you should have for real research activity. And you can see as a result of their patience and attempts, nowadays you have EDM machine, that is electric discharge machining machine. And the first patent was done for this machine by Lazarenko brothers of old USSR. Now the question is what to publish. Work worth publishing, getting appreciation and citation of the work should be your objective. Pick up a small problem, but go to its depth or root causes. I have already explained it carefully to you. Do not take large problem with a small depth or shallow depth, as I have already explained this to you. Always take up an original new problem, not the repetition of the work already done. Because many times I find in metal cutting, people take different materials and they do some experiments, or the different tool materials and they do some experiment and try to submit it for PhD. I think that is really not a good or publishable work. For example, taking just a different materials and doing ECM, EDM, everything, butter just machining, etc. Or designing a column with a different material. In my opinion, these are not real PhD thesis research problems. Such problems will not give you high appreciation and citation both. Why to publish? For getting your academic degree, for patenting your investigation and earning money by selling it or manufacturing the product, to have monopoly in the market, to get promotion in the academic career or other careers in industry. I think that everyone knows it. And for self satisfaction, because of your junoon, you have the junoon to do the research activity, then many people publish it for self satisfaction also. Now thesis topic, publishable work and where to publish, how to decide thesis topic. It can be a MTech thesis topic, it can be a PhD thesis topic, and how to decide where to publish. Your thesis topic objective should be completely new, on which no one across the globe should have worked or published over it. That is very important. So you should decide your thesis topic very carefully. How to get such problems for the PhD thesis or MTech thesis. This is very important because I find most of the students, they just start doing PhD work or MTech thesis work, whatever his or her supervisor tells them. I think that is not a right approach. What students should do or students should be asked to do is that they should make thorough literature survey to the journals and old PhD and MTech thesis. Search through the Google or other search engines about the published research papers in the area of your research interest or thesis topic. And then as a guide, we should not do spoon feeding by giving thesis topic of our convenience or our interest. Students will not get trained in deciding or searching the research problems if you do so. Let them struggle for some time. If they are not able to find the appropriate topic, then only come forward to suggest them the topic of your convenience or the project that you already have or the project that you are going to have, or you are going to submit it to the funding agency. I think this is very important for the supervisors or the guides, that let the students decide themselves. Let them at least make their serious attempt to decide the thesis topic rather than you propose yourself. Solution is not so easy. Suppose you got 50 related research papers and 5 PhD theses in the area in which you want to do your PhD work. If it is a theoretical analysis modeling, go to their assumptions. Whatever you are referring these 50 research papers or 5 PhD theses, you go and look into their assumptions made in the analysis. You take up one or two assumptions and relax them in your analysis. You will get a very good results, better results. Or apply a completely new approach to the problem. For example, if a problem has been solved by finite element method, you can think of applying, if the problem has been solved by finite difference method, you can think of applying finite element method. But check if the approach suits to the present problem or not, because it is not necessary. You cannot blindly apply finite element method or finite difference method or finite volume method to any problem. You have to see the assumptions made in finite element method, finite difference method, or finite volume method. You should have good reason for applying finite element method in place of finite difference method. For example, ECM is such problem which needs finite element method in place of finite difference method because the geometry of the part to be machined is highly irregular. So alternative approach could be to take a clue from the conclusions. Here I have told you about the assumptions. After looking into the assumptions, you can look into the conclusions of the published work, what they have done and what they have not done. And from there, you can proceed further to select your research problem. How to get the publishable work done? You should do high quality work for publication. It should be new, which others have not done across the globe. Don't think of your own university or your own country alone. When you are thinking of publishing the good work, you have to see it across the globe. It may be new experiment, application of new methodology for the analysis, new analysis, etc. If interdisciplinary, more appreciated. If you take up interdisciplinary problem, it will be more appreciated. It could be a really good critical review. You may be surprising that how a MTech thesis can be critical review only. One MTech thesis was accepted abroad on the work of only really critical review. He made an excellent critical review of the existing literature, in which he had good mathematical analysis of the existing work, and he was awarded MTech degree or MS degree for that critical review of the existing literature. But it is very, very rare. I will give you just one example, that late Professor O.P. Jain of University of Roorkee was awarded Khosla Research Award for designing the Century Gate. Those who have visited University of Roorkee, now IIT Roorkee, it has a Century Gate. It failed within a year. He designed it, and for designing, he was awarded Khosla Research Award. But that design failed within 1 year. Then he reviewed the design critically and presented the analysis of the failure of the Century Gate, why it failed, how it failed. And for this critical review and analysis, he was again presented Khosla Research Award, second Khosla Research Award. So what I am trying to tell you here is that it is the critical, real critical review that makes a review paper. Otherwise, he has done this, he has done this, she has done this. That is not a critical review. You have to analyze the work done by others mathematically, scientifically, and give your suggestion that how it can be improved. That is the real critical review. So what inferences you take from here? Critical review does not mean reporting what others have done. It should be a critical analysis, which may even involve scientific or mathematical analysis. What I will do, I will stop here because time is up. Now, if you have any questions, please ask for it.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful presentation, sir. I have a doubt actually.
Yes.
Sir, in case of new experiment work, there is an uncertainty analysis. Sir, can you brief about that? Because
See, in what I have mentioned earlier, that I don't have too much idea about uncertainty analysis, but I have told you about the chemical analysis. See, there may be many parameters or input variables, maybe 15, 20 variables. You cannot take all of them and develop a model. But by experimentation, you have to find out which are the influential or important parameters which affect the responses. So, frankly speaking, I don't have much idea about the question that you have asked.
okay, sir.
Any other question, please? Hello?
Participants, if you have any query, you can ask. Mr. Ashish Srivastava.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you can ask your query if you want to ask.
No, sir.
Okay. I
If
thought,
there is no question, no problem.
oh,
Is it all
thank you,
right?
sir, thank you, sir. This is a wonderful topic, and I think
Welcome.
all of us are benefited with this as well. we are all young faculty members and research scholars here.
Thank you very
And
much.
now I request Dr. A.K. Sharma sir for vote of thanks. Dr. A.K. Sharma sir.
Sir, we are very honored with your presence in this FDP on additive manufacturing. Sir. Sir, you hardly need any introductions. You have made all of us proud of your distinct work and achievements in numerous capacities. Sir, you have very nicely correlated the conventional manufacturing methods with the additive manufacturing in this talk. Sir, you have very nicely said the patience is required to do the good research or patenting work. And you have quoted that about the EDM machine, how they have invented this EDM machine. You have quoted that 40 times they have attempted to develop EDM machine but failed. And because of this continuous effort, they have succeeded and got patented of EDM. Sir, I heartily thanks for your for the accepting our invitation and enlightening us with this knowledgeable session. Thank you, sir. We have another session from 12:20. I think there is 12. After 50 minutes, later we can start. We have another session of Chenna sir from the IIT Kanpur. So we will again rejoin this meeting, and for 15 minutes break will be there. So we can.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
All participants, please rejoin after 50 minutes.